Woo! Welcome back to the show, Savages Unscripted. My name is Al, and I'm accompanied with my homie right here.
Hey, the homie is Hector.
And we're back.
Yeah, it's been quite a week. Again, I think we've mentioned before, we're on a weird timeline where we record, edit, and then the episodes don't really go out till a bit later. But as of this recording right now, this past week, we just officially went on Spotify and on Google Podcasts and on a few of those other podcast apps. So the reviews are in. What do you think about that, Al?
I've just seen the live count, honestly. I'm just amazed how much we've been getting so much feedback, not from the comments I've been seeing from our perspective channels, but the stuff that you've been sharing with me, that people are just enjoying it, and that specifically your group of friends are liking what we talk about.
Do you want to share what everyone's been commenting on?
Well, the one thing people like to like us about our podcast is that there's too many things, but the one thing everyone keeps saying that's consistent is your sexy voice.
That was random. Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Oh, wait, what?
But,
And the funny thing about it, I was like, okay, a girl told you that. And then I was like, okay, that. But then your guy friends started saying that. I'm like, damn, these guys are the real bros right here.
Oh, those are the real bros. But, what else too? Yeah, we've been getting just some good feedback, and that's really cool. It just really shows that, we're getting that support. And for a while, we have been saying we're going to release a podcast. We want to do this podcast. And we finally did it. And it shows, these friends care. So that's really cool. Down the line, we do want to feature you guys or do something with you guys. Now I am doing vocal exercises. I need to take care of this voice. But
don't hype yourself too much, man.
We're finally out there. We already have people giving ideas for what to talk about, so that's really cool too. I've been having I have a few friends for sure, and whenever something happens in the news or something, they've been messaging me or commenting me, and they tell me hey, you should talk about this in the podcast, or they just say, hey, podcast, and that's really cool because that shows they want you to cover it, and they want to listen to this. So that's pretty cool. So those of you that have done that and that have been sharing, from the bottom of our hearts and Al's little heart, we thank you.
I'm not the Grinch, man. Come on.
I don't know.
Oh.
I've heard opposite things about that in you.
But
me? To start off, you finally watched a movie that you should have seen months ago. Do you want to talk about that?
Dude, Hobbs and Shaw. That movie was great. You saw it, right?
Dude, I did see it.
I'm just kidding. I finally saw that hyped up movie you kept talking about, Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse? I think that's what it's called.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. It was on Netflix for... When did it come out? It was almost a year and a half ago, right?
Oh, no. It was less. I think it came out this past December. It's been on Netflix for a few months.
Okay. Oh, but I finally watched it, and at first... Okay, typically, I don't like to watch movies when I'm at home because I just don't have the patience to sit down and watch a movie. I'd rather watch short videos or play video games or do something more where there's more action more than sitting down. Or there's at least more movement going on between changes, between different entertainment platforms. And I was kind of grinding it out at first. I was like, damn, dude, I gotta sit down and see this. This thing is so hyped. I want to see what's the big deal. Sat down, watched it all throughout, no pauses. It was definitely worth the watch. kind of felt a little generic, the story, oh, he's a little kid, you don't trust on him. Eventually he steps up, mans up, he saves the day, and at the end he just is gonna be becoming the next big hero. And even though that story is a little generic, I just liked how it was executed. Songs with Post Malone, and then when it came to just the dialogue, and it just brought more connection with the characters than just watching a movie, like an action movie. Mm-hmm. So it was a
one thing
really interesting movie.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about the Into the Spider-Verse is, well, all the other Spider-Man movies, like you're saying, it's pretty generic. There isn't much to do in these superhero movies. I'm a big fan of them, but I think a lot of them tend to go by the same formula. A lot of the Spider-Man movies, they are pretty similar. But this one, I think the theme was a little different, and that's what I really liked about it. I think the big thing in this one was anyone can wear the mask. And like you were saying, this is a younger Spider-Man, this younger kid. And the big thing in this Spider-Man movie is, I don't think I have to say spoilers here. This came out in December.
You don't need
unless you're like Al, you were living under a rock. But the big thing here was, with this multiverse, there's these different Spider-Men, and they're all completely different. Yeah, I love the anime one. That one was really funny, really cool. But I think really the point was, hey, anyone can be a superhero. As cheesy as that sounds, but that's kind of cool. And then when he wore that, I like that little cheap Spider-Man outfit that he got from the little comic or the costume store. Oh, that was pretty cool. But
that was a meme.
I thought that was a pretty cool theme. But now that since you brought up Spider-Man, that really brings me up to what is going on right now with Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And this has been haunting the headlines. For those that don't know, Disney doesn't own Spider-Man film rights. And that's been Sony. For the longest time, Sony's been owning Spider-Man. And that's why with Tobey Maguire, with the Andrew Garfield, you don't see any Avengers there or no mention of Iron Man or any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. They've had basically two different universes. And a few years ago, Disney and Sony finally came to an agreement where Sony wasn't going to sell the rights, but they were going to make some sort of partnership. It was a 5-film partnership where Disney's more in charge of the creative side and I believe promotions, but Sony was going to get a big chunk of the dough. And that went well. As you saw with Tom Holland, we got Civil War, Captain America, the Avengers movies, and both Spider-Man movies, Far From Home and Homecoming. Mm-hmm. But this was just his 5th film that just passed, so the deal was over, basically. And everyone assumed, the Disney's been doing really good. The Spider-Man movies have been doing really great. You and me recently talked about Far From Home, and that was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm. No, it was.
I know you enjoyed that.
Tom Holland just killed it as Spider-Man, to be honest.
Yeah, and so everyone was feeling like, oh well, they're gonna resign again. Sony, they need this because their universe was kind of collapsing after both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And recently, they just announced that they're going their own separate paths. Sony and Disney were not going to renegotiate, and immediately. You know how it is right now on social media, Al. Memes everywhere.
Memes. It's funny. It's funny how much people are reacting over this, and it's just an emotional reaction. At the end of the day, I just see it as just what do you call it? Typical reaction. But you were gonna say something else?
Just more so that this is something we talk about a lot, and I think anyone has this conversation, but. Social media, we're seeing this more and more, just outrages, and that's what it was with the Disney thing. Years ago, we wouldn't have been seeing this sort of talk, because social media wasn't a thing. We can't go online and see these conversations. But now we are, and I think that's why it's even bigger. And it seemed like people are just getting more involved, especially with something like Disney and Marvel, where there's these big fan bases, comic book fans, or people that love the superheroes based on just the movies. Mm-hmm. So now people are getting more vocal. But yeah, I agree. I know you're not the biggest superhero fan, but you watch them pretty casually. How do you see this affecting Sony and Disney? Since now Spider-Man won't be in the Avengers movies and vice versa as well. You won't see those characters from the Avengers coming out in any Spider-Man movies from a business standpoint.
All right. So besides the memes, when you look at this, like you said, business perspective or just a rational perspective, you understand that Sony wants to capitalize on how much hype Spider-Man has to begin with, especially with such a great situation going on. Like you said, all these movies have been great. Tom Holland is a hell of an actor. And it was just perfect timing, I feel, for Sony to just come out and say, like, hey, let's take a risk and let's see what happens. Because at the end of the day, Spider-Man is a pretty well-known superhero out there. Either if you go for any company that has it, just in general in everyone's mind, Spider-Man comes up to mind, Batman, Thor, not Thor, freaking Iron Man, and all those big superheroes. So I feel like it's a great opportunity for them. It's a risk, obviously. People don't like it, but I feel this will help them bring up their other superheroes or super villain characters that they have, and they could at least make their own world and come to competition with the Marvel world. It sounds like a big leap right here, and I'm talking kind of nonsense in a way, but it could at least bring some sort of competition, because at the end of the day, if you see an opportunity, you should just take a risk on it and see how you could help it grow, especially with such a great situation, like I said, they were on. It just seems like a good business decision to make, not a fan decision. But to me, it was all about just the money, man. Like you said, mostly Marvel or any of those movies, they get a good chunk out of the profits. But if they were to create their own world, they could just make a ton of money out of different characters, and they could also make their own world, and this could go on forever, and I could just keep talking about business. But at the end of the day, I just feel that they made a right decision when it comes to a business standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you there on them. Just there's all this hype on Spider-Man, which is already probably one of the most popular characters in like pop culture history. But just what he's done for the MCU, I'm pretty sure like they want that too of their own.
Or if I could just add, sorry.
Yeah.
What I was about to say was that also they could just be holding off for more money. That's really the last resort. If at the end of the day they can't plan something out, they can't really do a 5-year plan where they can make a bunch of movies for their characters, and they don't have the funds for it. They could just go back and hold off for even longer and just end up getting more revenue or more money out of Disney. Mm-hmm. So it's just a win-win. They have the most of the leverage here. And also, just the final thought is that Spider-Man's touted to be the next Avenger captain or whatever. And now that they just took him out, kind of Marvel's left there kind of scrambling. So in a way, when they took away Spider-Man, they're already taking the leader of their world and then placing it to their world. So Disney could be scrambling for a minute at least, while Sony could plan their stuff out and grow their not their MCU but their world, and just not overtake Marvel. Obviously, Marvel's already too established, but they could get a good starting point at least.
Yeah, and what's funny is like I had mentioned, there's all these memes. And they're really just attacking Sony. And I think that's the easy thing to target right now. The thing is, right now, there is no confirmation on who's at fault here. But of course, social media and the news outlets and all that stuff, everyone's pointing fingers. And because Sony has failed their universes before, they've rebooted Spider-Man again and again, people are easily pointing at Sony. They're saying, hey, well, it's obvious it's your fault. Marvel and Disney have been doing some good stuff, so if anyone fucked up, come on, Sony. Mm-hmm. But there's been no confirmation. Nobody knows. There's been some people saying maybe Disney wanted a bigger chunk this time because it was more so creative rights, and they didn't take that much out of this deal, from what I know. But people were saying that there's a big speculation that Disney wanted more this time, like almost like a 50-50 sort of thing. And it's like that's not their character, and for them to want that much of a portion, that's a bit of a concern. And of course, then same thing with Sony. Money, they have their own universe, and the thing with their universe, and I predicted this a while ago because they've been making their own universe kind of subtly. They have the Venom movie that came out about a year or two ago.
That was pretty good.
They've already announced Silver Sable and Morbius, and I think a few other characters, but the thing about this universe and what they've planned is they're all villains in Spider-Man comics. So what's the missing piece right there, Al?
Spider-Man.
Exactly. So what I've been saying for a while is I personally think they should have been working a little bit longer with Disney, and they should have, on the side, Sony should have established their universe more. Because as of right now, there's no guarantee it's even going to be decent. Right now, it's just Venom, which I heard in terms of entertainment, it was good. But for the value and the content, it wasn't great.
But
so you have this universe that isn't a great foundation. And you have all these ideas. And now you have Spider-Man, which was somewhere else. And you're bringing him to your universe. So now the question is this going to translate well? And on top of that, did you watch Venom?
Yeah, I watched it.
I haven't watched it, but it seems like the tone of Venom is a lot darker. And I believe that movie was rated R. And that just doesn't fit Spider-Man. This Tom Holland Spider-Man. So I don't know how that's going to happen.
Oh, Venom was actually PG-13.
It was PG-13?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, I think they were going to do rated R, but they didn't go through with it.
Yeah, they didn't go through with it, especially because they want a younger audience to view their movie. And I know there's specifically like 2 scenes where they want to show when he bit off like body parts of their enemies, and they actually want to show blood. But since it was PG-13, they just cut that off. I remember that was a kind of like a big thing during that time. But what I was actually going to comment to you was, don't you think it's actually a good opportunity for them to bring in Spider-Man? Because, you know, like you said, they're just starting their world and kind of rebooting it. And wouldn't it be great to start all of this Sony world that they're trying to make with Spider-Man leading the way, rather than just kind of establishing yourself and risking that Disney as well could go on ahead and just change the image of Spider-Man in their world? Because at the end of the day, they could just give him once their contract is running up, they could just give him a lower image or lower role in their movies, and that could kind of fade off Spider-Man and their hype.
My big thing is they haven't done well creatively. Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, I think it was good. 1 and 2. 3 fell apart. And I personally liked Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I was kind of disappointed with the way the second one ended and the fact that there wasn't a third one. It seems creatively Sony hasn't really been there. And the thing is, my point is, they're building this universe where all they have right now is Venom, which is a completely different tone. So they don't even have a stable universe, and they have all these big ideas which hasn't even been implemented. They haven't. I don't think they've started production on any of those movies. So it seems like they're bringing them really quickly. And the thing is, it can go one of 2 ways. It can work, or it won't. And I think that's just a bit of a gamble based on Sony's history. I would love for it to work. One thing is, I would love to see Spider-Man and Venom in the same movie. That is like one of my dreams. But I don't know. And this takes away Spider-Man from that whole MCU, who just recently Disney acquired Fox. So now there's, the possibility of X-Men and Fantastic Four, but now Spider-Man's not there anymore.
That's interesting. What can I say about that? I feel like in the end,
I want it to work.
Okay. But
I do.
Okay. What I was about to say is that either way, I feel like at the end of the day, Sony has the most leverage here. Because if it fails or not, I feel they could just go back to Disney. And because Disney, even though they'll probably take more of the cut of the cake, Spider-Man is just too big of an image just to ignore.
Back on that Into the Spider-Verse, the animated one, I personally believe that movie was great. And they should do more animated movies. Because that one was different. It was a completely different tone, different style and everything, but it worked perfectly. If they did more in that universe, I would love that. See, the thing for me is, I'm not pro Marvel, and like there's all these people that are like, oh, well, screw Marvel, I'm DC all the way, or vice versa, screw DC, Marvel all the way. I just love these superhero comics. I want them all to succeed. I've told you a lot, and I've been super critical of DC when they fuck up. I'm not a big fan of the way they've been going through with things, but I love DC. I grew up watching Justice League, and Batman's one of my favorite superheroes. But I just want all this to work. I want to see a good Spider-Man with Venom. I want a good DC movie. It's been a while since we had a decent one. And I just want all this to work.
All right.
I want to see my childhood on the big screen.
Dude, you should be the next cast for Venom. or any of those
Dude,
characters.
I could probably write a better script than Sony can. Like, if anyone in Sony is listening, I grew up with Spider-Man comics and the cartoons and movies. I've noticed you guys haven't been too well in the creative department. I got you. I even have a Spider-Man costume if you want to reboot, get Tom Holland out of there. I got you. But
Hispanic Spider-Man.
I don't know.
that could be that could be another Spider-Man from the Spider-Verse.
I'll be a Mexican Spider-Man. I'm gonna wear a sombrero.
Mexican. He'll be red, white, and red for red, white, and green for his uniform.
Red, white, and red. What's the second red? Blood.
Ooh. Oh yeah, that could work. No, burgundy.
Red, white, and even more red. And what's funny about this, before we beat this conversation too much, is so after they announced that the deal wasn't going to go any further, all these memes basically, just like I was saying, they're pointing fingers at Sony. Mm-hmm. And Sony's under this huge fire, saying Sony's going to screw up again. They screwed up with this decision. They're going to mess up the universe. And then there's all these memes. And then all of a sudden, there was an article a few days ago that said they were going to renegotiate. They were going to talk again. And I saw that as a PR stunt. Like, hey, all right, well, we're talking again. It's a possibility. It's not a confirmation. Mm-hmm. But they just, I think, announced a couple days ago, they had a little Disney Expo convention or something. Mm-hmm. And Tom Holland and Kevin Feige, I believe, they just went out and said, like, yeah, this was never going to be forever. And it's not going to happen.
Damn.
But at the end of the day,
that's what
their businesses, they're going to try to save face. And I think right now, Marvel and Disney, they don't want to seem like bad guys and point fingers, antagonize somebody else. So it is what it is. Those of you that want to see Spider-Man with the Avengers again, it won't be anytime soon. But that's business.
Talking about fires, Hector, have you heard of the Amazon fires been going on?
What's funny is, actually, it's not funny. There's nothing funny about this. But I found out about it through you. No, okay, there is a funny part to this. No, okay.
There's nothing funny here.
Let me explain. Come on. Right. People think I'm a jackass for now. Let me finish. This past week has just been really busy. As I told you, things at work have been just chaotic. I can't even mention some of it right now. It's just crazy. But I didn't know about the fire. And you sent me a link and you said we should talk about this in the podcast. And all it said was Amazon fires. And immediately I thought of Amazon, the company. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
the tablet, right?
I worked there and I didn't like it. So I was like, yeah, suits them. It was probably like somebody at FedEx or something. That was my first thought. I didn't know it was the Amazon rainforests. But I think the next day I really looked into it and I realized just how big of an issue it was. But I know you've read up more about it. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about the lungs of the world, the Amazons. Well, from what I've researched is they really don't know when it started. Typically in Brazil, they are used to small fires happening there in the Amazons, but they don't worry about it because of the dry nature of it. So every time there's a fire, it's most likely going to be not gonna dry, should I say? Yeah, actually, more moist. So typically when there's a fire, it's most likely just going to be contained because of the moist temperature and the moist environment there. But now due to global warming that's been going on, it's being more dry and windy. And due to that change of climate, the fires that typically happen in Brazil, it just started spreading. And this one started in Bolivia and some city in Brazil I forgot the name of. But it started from basically the south, and from all the winds that's been happening, it's just been pushing it up and just spreading it throughout Brazil. And before, it wasn't such a big deal for, I forgot the president's name, Bolbasaur. It's called
Bolsonaro, I think.
Let's call him Bulbasaur. So Bulbasaur didn't think.
Bulbasaur. Wait. Well, no, we can't do this because that's my favorite Pokemon. I hate him already. All right, go ahead.
All right, so Bulbasaur didn't make such a big deal out of it, and I'm gonna just try to be as neutral as possible. I think he's an idiot at first, but I'm just saying I'm gonna be in his shoes and say, okay, he's used to this,
Great job.
used to fires, because from just NASA on their own, they reported last year they had 40,000 fires in just 2018, and they were fine. But now this year, up to now, and we're not even done with the year, they're up to 74,000 fires. So that's over an 80% increase of the fires. And I'm guessing in his perspective, he still didn't think much of it, and he thought, it's just going to be contained. But it just started spreading and spreading, and he got a lot of criticism. Most likely because of how he reacted at first, and then also the lack of awareness to it, because at first he just started sending a couple hundred soldiers for this to contain the fires. But then the more and more research you do about it, there was a rumor spread out that he allowed for cattle farmers to start fires so they could clear land and they could start their own cattle farms there. And that's actually a common business practice over there. Brazil's the world's leading beef exporter throughout the world. Even beats USA, and I was surprised. I was like, damn. But with that custom business habit they have, they came under fire because he even said it, it's firing season, literally to burn the forest down so cattle could happen. But now you mix the weather change with the cattle fires. It just spread it all out, and plus the winds that were happening, it started actually going to the big cities such as Sao Paulo. And before, it wasn't even going to big cities; it was just going in cities near Bolivia with the smoke. But now that it got to bigger cities, it got bigger concerns. And the most interesting part about this was that he still didn't react that strongly. He just recently, this week on 8/24, this Thursday, he recently said he'll send over 1,000 troops to fight the fires after having so much criticism on his way, and after the French president made his comments that this is a world emergency. So after all of this, it's just been I would say a lot of mismanagement by the president, but also not uncontrollable factors, but unaccustomed factors that got him to play here. And then it's just been going on, man. I haven't found the specific article that says how long it's been going on, but it's typically they're saying it's more than 2 weeks that's been happening. And now I know in the G7 summit in Europe, they're already coming to an agreement where they're gonna send support to help defeat the fires. And this is a worrisome problem here because of just the wildlife that's getting burned out, and all the oxygen we're losing. And it's just crazy how much neglection happened over this literally big problem. And
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
just the fact that it's been going on, possibly like you said, for possibly weeks. That's what I've been hearing too. Possibly 2 or 3 weeks. That's just ridiculous. And
what I found funny, I actually found this as a quick side note, was that the Israel government, the prime minister, actually got into contact with the Brazilian president Bulbasaur, and he told them he would send them. I forgot what it's called, like a big water, not a big water, like what do you call it? Like those big ships that the military has that they use for the fires and stuff like that. Well, he's gonna send them one, and I'm like, okay, you're contributing, but it's kind of like, eh. But help is help at the end of the day, especially with all this neglect that's been happening here. I just found that interesting how the Israel government is trying to help out as well after stuff they've been going through too.
Yeah, more on because you'd mentioned about the illegal farmers. One thing I do know that I did read is that January, around there, that because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about who is to blame here, and you can't put all the blame on President Bulbasaur. You really can't. Not all the blame, but he was a huge factor and influence on this, because not too long ago he set some huge policies that basically made it easier for illegal farming and illegal mining and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those people that are doing that stuff that can harm this environment, but now now they can do it. They can get away with it. And, a lot of it is just business and I know production for, I think real estate, they were saying in those areas. And a lot of these fires, I believe, are getting close to indigenous groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing they're saying. And, so there's even more of a danger and there's just so many animals and stuff there. So, yeah, this is just ridiculous.
And the funniest part of them all is that even through all this, fire, like this week before Thursday when he actually started taking action, once, I mentioned that the president of France commented about his concerns about this. President Bulbasaur just got offended more than being supportive about it or asking. He just said like basically stay in your lane. like it just seems like a really unprofessional, unpresident-like attitude when it comes to such a big emergency like this.
There's been a lot of coverage on the things he's been saying. I'm not sure if you've seen, but he seems very immature, this President Bulbasaur. He's like that, it's like when you're going to wash dishes or something and then your mom tells you and you get petty and you're like, oh, well, now I don't want to fucking do it. It's kind of like that. And he just seems very immature about this. I know he just recently said, I think in the past day or two, that a lot of these critics that are criticizing the fire, they're making him look bad. So he's worried about his image more than these actual fires, it seems, and the harm from the fires. He's saying, hey, it's not entirely my fault. You guys are making me look bad.
And even former prime minister, I think, prime administrator of the wilderness in Brazil, his name is Ricardo Recupero, if I'm not mistaken. He even comments how this guy's an idiot. A guy from your own country says that, and he was in that specific division. He goes on to say that he thinks not even leaders around, even worse leaders that have been headlining previously around the world have fucked up so badly as this guy. Not even Trump. Which, like we talked about the other day, this seems like the first time in the whole I don't know 3 years that he's been the president that Trump is not the worst person in the world right now.
Yeah, somebody else is hated more than Trump. That's a first.
But what other thing is that astounds me as well is that this type of coverage wasn't even done. I would say in local news in the U.S. at least. I know at times they have their small segments where they talk about international news and stuff like this, but such a big crisis that affects most of the world wasn't even given that much attention to or much headers to. Besides, obviously, not all of them, but I would say the big ones that mostly people are paying attention to. They didn't bring this to people's, TVs or streams in order to pay attention to it and see what's going on. And what I've liked, and this is actually the pros I like about social media, is that you get to learn about this online through people and non-biased opinions, I would say. Yeah, it's just a really fucked up situation going on. We should
yeah, and
we should
go ahead.
We should get our followers to plan the trip with us to Brazil and start helping the fires, man.
Let's go. All that money from your financial aid you're saving from from your college funds for Mexico to party, you guys can come with us to Brazil. Let's go help out.
Yeah.
I've always been curious about that. I remember, sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent. I remember back when I was in college and I'd be sitting in class and specifically like lecture halls that nobody cared about, those GE classes. Mm-hmm. I specifically remember people shopping in class, and I would very often see people buying like plane tickets and people planning trips to Mexico and stuff. It's always Mexico. But
yeah,
a lot of the times I'm wondering, where are you getting this money from? Because I see the way you dress and the way you eat. McDonald's every day, come on. But a lot of people blowing their financial aid on stuff like that. It's interesting. I hope people don't think I'm attacking them on the
that's what I want
show.
to
I just
say.
speak my mind a lot. Yeah, like, oh, Hector's talking again. Fuck, he's attacking me now. No, I'm very critical. I just open my mind a lot. But
one thing I
oh, one thing I
oh sorry.
go ahead.
One thing I also forgot to mention. And it goes along to Bulbasaur being an idiot. Is that it was Tuesday from what I read. I can't find the article specifically right now, but I saw that there was a petition going on in Brazil and it was released on Tuesday for the government to pay attention to the fires. And their goal was, I can't remember what the goal was specifically, but they had, let's say, 6-figure goal. Let's say 100,000. Hector, you know how long they hit that? How many days it took for them to hit that goal?
How many?
2 days. And they didn't get 100.
Oh, wow.
They got 500K. 500,000 people signed that shit immediately. That just makes me think back to, when you're at the grocery store and you're going around and people are outside trying to fuck up your day by telling you about how kids are dying and all this stuff and trying to get petitions to be signed. And those hardly get signed. Yet. And we're in a country that's mostly, should be up to date and have the technology to be up to date. But these people in Brazil, just Brazil on its own, they got 500,000 people. 500,000 people are aware of this and signed it immediately and thought passionately about this and put their name on the paper. I'm emphasizing on this because, you always got to do your research and then do a petition and blah, blah, blah. But doesn't this come to your head when you see that a petition gets signed so quickly? And I'm assuming this is why he started also acting up or actually doing something besides the critics he got. But for 500,000 people to sign a petition in 2 days, it just shows how much emergency, how important this is compared to, I don't know what this guy was honestly thinking or focusing on. All I read so far is that he just didn't see it as a priority. But I don't know, dude. I'm just dumbfounded how such a dumb president could be elected or be leading the world like this. I'm not surprised, right? I already have one, but I'm surprised there's even more like this.
Yeah, and again, I don't intend to attack people, but this made me realize and remember just end of 2018, beginning of 2019 when the government shut down and it was called the national crisis. Do you remember all that stuff?
Kind of remember.
Because of the funding for the wall, so the government was shut down and all these people were being affected for that, which wasn't a crisis. And then you compare it to this international crisis, which is actually more I don't know what else word you use, but it's way more. It's really just, I don't know. Again, this is ridiculous. This is more than people think it is. And this is something that more people should be talking about.
Well, the good thing now, through social media at least, that sparked this sort of interest for it, is that now it's really being talked about. I liked it the other day. Yeah. I have this friend. She posted on her stories. She's like, how the fuck does a petition for... What was that controversy? That one show you like a lot? Where the girl gets molested by her cousin or something.
Oh, never mind.
No.
Not Game of Thrones.
No. The Game of Thrones, yeah, that thing. She gets raped or something. I don't know. But
that's an interesting way to describe Game of Thrones, Al. Let me just say that. But go ahead.
That's all I remember from that show. But
fuck the dragons and all the swords and kingdoms.
Okay, but yeah, there was... let's see if you could give me a little refresher here. But there was a petition going on to change the storyline or some sort of the episodes?
So Game of Thrones just finished this last spring, and it's been always just really critically acclaimed and just this really big show in pop culture. But the last 2 seasons were kind of fading down, not doing as good, and they've been really rushing. And the last season, the big news was when they said each episode was going to be longer. So 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Everyone was like, all right, they're not going to rush. But not much went on in those episodes. And it was just really poorly written and poorly constructed. So at the end of that season, or maybe even before, like second to last episode, there were petitions and protests over, we want this season redone. We want it, shot again and all this stuff. And of course you can protest all you want, but they're not going to do it again.
How long did they take to protest and stuff like that and get the petition to that many signatures? Do you remember?
I don't remember how many signatures. I don't remember the numbers, but I remember it was a big thing for the week. And eventually, just like any trend, something came along and it died out. People forgot about it. But
okay, so
I don't know. People will petition anything. Go ahead.
But going back, she just pointed out how this petition for Game of Thrones got so many signatures within a week, or got so much attention within the week. Yet this Amazon that's critical to the world has been just getting a look 2 weeks after it's been happening. And I'm not saying, like you say as well, I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm not trying to say anything like that. But it just shows how, maybe how we gain our information, how flawed it could be structured, or maybe how much there should be much more emphasis on, how would you say this, like critical living conditions rather than just, what Kim Kardashian wore last week. But yeah, that's all.
Well, I think anyone will stray away from those big news things. Why do people share more on memes and videos and just more comedic stuff than politics? I think at times, not just people don't want to. So here's the thing: people don't want to share something, and when they don't know much about it, get questioned, and this is just what I heard. I want to share it. But then there's also just the idea that it's something really deep and very real. A while ago, I posted something on politics, and I remember a family member saying, the reason I stay away from politics is just so negative. And I remember thinking, like, just because you're avoiding it doesn't mean it's not happening. Yeah. I mean, I understand if you don't want to, if it does stress you out and it does make you unhappy. I remember they were saying, and I don't mean this as a joke, I'm saying this seriously, but around the time Donald Trump got elected president, there were concerns about depression. And a lot of those people that were really, they felt that they were going to be really negatively impacted by Donald Trump's presidency. A lot of those people were talking about depression and anxiety and just a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And I think at times people just want to avoid that stuff. And I understand if it does stress you out, but just because you look the other way doesn't mean it's not happening. And if anything, that's enabling, in my opinion. That just reminds me of something that's talked about a lot and that I've read about a lot is back in Nazi Germany, not all of those people fully believed in Hitler, but it was the thing, and it was this big thing that was going on, and mostly everybody followed it, so people did turn a blind eye. And it's kind of the same thing, not exactly the same thing, but just the idea of, oh, well, this is negative, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to share it, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to read about it. Yeah, just like you're saying, people are sharing it more now, so that's good. And I wonder, I would hope it's not just for views and clicks or just to show that you're caught up with this stuff. But if anything, we've talked about this before, it's awareness. If you share it, somebody's going to read it. Maybe not everyone's going to pay attention to it 100%, but somebody's going to read it. Somebody's going to know about it. If you hadn't shared about the Amazon fires with me, I wouldn't have known about it probably till like the next day or two. And I think that's the way it works.
What I was about to say, and obviously the stuff you stated doesn't apply to everyone, when it comes to ignoring it. I just have to clarify that. But yeah, there's so many different variances that happen to how we gain our information, or how we, how we process it. There's so many different steps to the information being available to being processed, and throughout that time, or throughout that process, there could be different things that affect it, and it could just come down to how how updated the person wants to be, not just on the U.S. soil, but also international soil, or maybe where your heritage is from, or you're gonna travel there. There's so many different things that's interesting. But now that you were talking about, sharing and stuff like that, I've been hearing also that that your friends have been sharing our podcast, and I just gotta say, you already spoke it, but obviously I haven't gotten to meet everyone or anybody who shared it, even if you're not who knows us. I just want to say thank you as well. That's just been awesome, and I'm just glad that we're providing great entertainment and news, although comedy, anything that you guys perceive it as, we're always welcome to provide. And
yeah, exactly.
And also another thing you're mentioning, you said there was the Great Depression. Wait, what was it? You cut off in the last part where you were talking about Trump.
It was just an issue that was brought up, a topic on right after Donald Trump got elected, and people were saying that people should consider depression and anxiety, because there were a lot of people who felt really negatively impacted by Donald Trump, and they felt like their best interests weren't being considered. And after Donald Trump got elected, there was just this big issue on safety spaces or safe spaces or whatever they call it. And that's what I meant by the whole depression thing.
I just brought that up because it just makes me think back to what could lead to these outcomes with the Amazon fires. Just to conclude our discussion about this, because another thing I read was that the German Prime Minister, she was talking to the, I think, Brazilian Prime Minister or the president, and they were talking about how they're going to help reforest the country or the Amazons after the fires are gone. And I just...
How long is that going to take?
I don't know,
because I can imagine that being a huge project spanning generations.
From what I read, the fires are... I don't know. This sounded crazy to me. I'm not going to say it's true or not, but from the article, what it stated was that the fires are 10 times the size of Texas. I don't know how much that could be true, or I haven't seen the scale of it. There's obviously NASA pictures swirling around, but it depends, man, because these fires in California, remember those fires that happened in where all the rich people lived? How long did that take? Like,
which one?
I can't remember.
Wait, hold on, very fast. Just a little tangent. It's sad, I think, that this is happening so much that I have to ask which one. Like, jokes aside here, I'm being serious. Like, there's been so many fires, and this summer, early summer, when there was all the fires in California as well. It's like the whole gun issue, how we were saying a while ago, that is just happening so much. And I'm not saying we're being desensitized, like we don't care, but there's a certain point where, there's another shooting, there's another fire. But that was just my little tangent. But which fire are you talking about?
I'm talking about I think the ones that happened by north from Malibu or around that area.
Yes, I remember those.
That one, how long did that take? I think it took like 2 weeks. I didn't fact check this. I'm just be clear with you guys. But let's say it took 2 weeks. And that was like a small region. That was in a full-on state like Texas. And if that thing is 10 times bigger, I don't know, man. I don't know. I do know that, Brazil's doesn't have the best, how would you say it? System, or like a good fire department system like the US does, or some states do, or I should say they're developed as the US is. But getting the help and getting the pitch in from European countries, from hopefully the USA, maybe they'll like to interfere again, and Brazil, and possibly some more South American countries that are probably doing it right now or are planning on doing it. It could probably take I'll guess a month or something. That's just crazy, man.
Yeah. And it's even more ironic that you dubbed him President Bulbasaur when Bulbasaur is a grass Pokemon. Dude,
he puts down fires. Should have called him Charmander instead.
Oh, now we're just throwing all these jokes here. And we're definitely going to get those protests we've been talking about.
Oh my god. Hey,
I hear the pitchforks.
Any marketing is good marketing. No, just kidding.
Yeah. On a more brighter note, what's up with Popeyes?
Dude, okay, so the other day I did a poll on Popeyes and versus Chick-fil-A. And our fans, I'm surprised, they were split. They were 50-50. I just want to do a little tangent on this. On whether Chick-fil-A or Popeyes was good. But, dude, people are going nuts over Popeyes. Like, what the fuck? I've been seeing a bunch of memes about not just Popeyes. Our viewers are going to probably see this before this episode goes up. But I just posted a story, and I haven't told you yet, but on eBay, they're selling Popeyes chicken for $80 or more. They'll send it to you frozen, so you could re-microwave it, and you even have to pay for the shipping. That's oh my
I'm
god,
down.
this is ridiculous. I've seen Popeyes go for, but they're pricing it up to $700. This is how crazy this thing is, and also the thing I showed our viewers was the clicks for Popeyes or the Googling for Popeyes. It hasn't fully happened. I haven't checked since then, but Popeye's projections for Googling stats were just set to spike up. They were just going to go up all the way. It was just going to be basically a straight line up, while the Chick-fil-A searches were like dipping a bit, and it just seemed interesting how much craze has been happening over Popeyes, and I just feel it's coming down to their consumers, promoting it. Then also social media and the memes and providing this big competition on which one's better. It's just been really interesting. What do you think about it?
I haven't tried the Popeyes sandwich yet. I think it just came out 2 weeks ago as of now. But I think a part of it is the memes. Because I think if it wasn't for memes and this meme culture, I don't think anyone would really be talking about the sandwich. I think it'd just be like, oh, they got a sandwich. Whoop-de-fucking-do. But with the memes, people are sharing these memes, and it's this funny outlet. And now the competition with Chick-fil-A, which not too long ago, I believe they were dubbed the most successful fast food business, I believe. Or they made, I don't know, they got something, but they're number one. And then there was all these jokes saying, oh, well, they're not even open Sundays, and they got number one. But now, I think because of that, and the fact that they're well known for their chicken sandwiches, and something people have been mentioning too, but their whole stance on homosexuality. So now people are saying, well, Popeyes is better, it seems, at chicken, and now they have this chicken sandwich. Like, Chick-fil-A is not doing very, very hot right now. But again, I haven't tried the sandwich, but it is the memes fueling it. But I'm excited to try it. I haven't had it yet. I've heard a lot of people that I know personally saying they've gone to Popeyes, but they run out everywhere.
Yep.
So right now, it's going to be really difficult to get a chicken sandwich from Popeyes.
You might as well just get an Uber Eats and order like 5 chicken sandwiches. And just hope.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is I went out the other day, and an Uber Eats person parked right next to me. Mm-hmm. And they walked out with Church's chicken. And I'm like, Popeyes is the thing right now. Who is getting Church's chicken? Who willingly gets Church's chicken? Not just that, but you're on Uber Eats where you're going to pay a little more for delivery. Church's chicken? Come on. I don't know. I can rant on Church's chicken right now, but I don't want to.
You know what I find funny is that Wendy's is in the game as well. Like, they're also comparing them with Chick-fil-A with the Popeyes chicken.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. And Wendy's is obviously, I wouldn't say the chicken sandwich brand. All these competitors come up. But it's interesting how just their social media on its own keeps them relevant. Because think about KFC. KFC was known as one of the big tanks for just chicken, fried chicken, and all this stuff in general. And they haven't even reacted at all. Or they probably have, and nobody cares. And it just shows how much social media could be such a big factor when it comes to businesses nowadays. Like I know Wendy's could be just savages. They always tweet savage stuff. And
I love Wendy's, yeah.
And
for that. Not their food, for their tweets.
But I'm surprised. I'm like, damn, dude. Those are my role models right there.
And what's funny is with Wendy's, I remember when they announced their spicy chicken, I guess it came back. I didn't even know they had one in the first place. Mm-hmm. I remember when they announced that it came back, it was a craze for like a day. And then Popeyes and Chick-fil-A took over. And goodbye, Wendy's. But I heard somebody saying, oh, yeah, the Wendy's spicy chicken is back. That was one of the best ones. And again, I didn't even know they had a spicy chicken. So that wasn't a big deal for me. Hype definitely is a big thing here. Because, again, just like I said, if it wasn't for the whole meme thing, people wouldn't know about this chicken sandwich. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have cared. But now because of all these memes, I'm gonna be honest. I want to try it. I really do.
Yeah, it's like super hype. But the funny thing I saw the other day, somebody shared, was that somebody gave the review on between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. And they basically said, for Chick-fil-A, basically think about it like this. It's a chicken sandwich made by a white lady who grew up around black people. And she got all the recipes down, all the customs down. And she basically nails it on the spot on how to make it. But she cares about your health. While in Popeyes, it'll be a black lady named Lucille or something like that. And she just puts all the grease in there, all the fats in there, and just goes for flavor and it just melts you away. And I just found that funny. And that kind of shows like how the sandwiches are really made. Chick-fil-A is more healthier than Popeyes, I would say. But at least for, trying it, Popeyes will be worth the bite.
I'm gonna kind of be the devil's advocate right here and say I don't think you can really compare the two. I know that's a big part of the craze, comparing the two, because just like you said, Chick-fil-A is a little healthier. Popeyes is known for fried chicken. They're two different types of chicken, the way it's made. You can't compare the two immediately. And I enjoy Chick-fil-A's food, and a big part of it too, I love their fries, their little potato wedges.
Yeah.
That's not something you can get at Popeyes. Popeyes is completely different. They're two completely different foods. I understand the comparing the two is a big part of the fun, but I think they're two completely different things. I could enjoy both. I can get like both in 1 week and be like, okay, well, this is something different. It's not the same thing.
What do you think is your favorite meme so far?
Concerning the Chick-fil-A and Popeyes?
Yeah.
I haven't seen too many of these memes, I'll be honest. The memes I've been seeing are the Spider-Man ones. So I haven't been too much exposed to the Popeyes ones.
Because the funniest one I've seen so far, it's a Popeyes worker outside chilling on the bench, like leaning down. And the caption is, y'all being overworking this poor worker after 800 chicken sandwiches served in an hour. And now that we both talk about basketball too, they also compared it to the flu game of Michael Jordan. Uh-huh. And it's both the same thing. It says, Michael Jordan flu game, 38 points. Popeyes worker, 800 sandwiches after 3 hours of work or something like that. It's just funny how much memes could help market a business, and it's a relatively new strategy that seems to be working out great.
Yeah, this is pretty funny. I just saw this today. Those of you that know him might know who I'm talking about. But I had a friend on my Instagram, and he tried out the Popeyes chicken sandwich today, and he went to Popeyes in a Chick-fil-A shirt. I'm not sure if he works there, but he took a Chick-fil-A shirt. And basically, he ordered the sandwich, and he was going to eat it, and he was reviewing it, his overall little experience. But what caught my attention, just like we've said, is just crazy. Because of the hype, it's so busy, and it's so hard to get a chicken sandwich. And there's the whole thing about overworking these workers, because there's just so much demand right now. But my friend said he waited for an hour and a half for his chicken sandwich, at least.
Bro.
That's crazy.
Just before we wrap up the topic on chicken sandwiches for Popeyes, there's two other memes I like. There's one where there's just a picture of a worker. I think it was taking the selfie. Oh no, it was just a portrait picture of a family. And a mom came to the restaurant. And then the caption says, Mom returns with chicken from grocery store just because they told her it ran out of chicken for the sandwiches. She legit bought a chicken from the grocery store so they could make the chicken sandwich. I'm like, dang. Are they gonna charge her, for the supplies? Are they gonna do it for free? Oh my god! And then there's another one. There's this black dude got off the car. I think he was with his mom or something. And he started getting into a fight. The workers told him, like, hey, we don't have any more chicken sandwiches. And he got off the car and he went through the freaking drive-through window inside and started fighting with all the workers. Dude, it's just, oh my god. People.
Oh, man.
People can be interesting and disappointing at the same time.
That's the best definition for people, I believe.
Dude, talking about that, I just also hear, I haven't really had this experience because I think the last time I got Popeyes was like 2 years ago, and I didn't even interact with the workers. But I've heard that they have shitty service, like they talk back at you and stuff like that, or they really don't care how they seem or look to their customers. They just talk to you like if they were your friends or just somebody from the street.
What's funny though is I think you can find that in any fast food place, but I think it also depends on which one you go to. Because I have gone to like the worst, like shitty service McDonald's, and then in a different area you can get actually decent food there, and it's actually warm, and the people there are nice. But I think it's that. But typically, any fast food place, I think they feel they're being underpaid and overworked, so they're going to be shitty people.
Any fast food place? In-N-Out?
Most.
Okay, there you go.
Most. In-N-Out's kind of in its own category. In-N-Out's a little interesting. In-N-Out has a bunch of younger people, so they haven't experienced life yet. It's
I feel like they're just
college. They're like halfway through college at most, and they're at In-N-Out. That's like the height of their experience. Mm-hmm. But if anyone that's working at In-N-Out listens to this, I'm sorry. I'm kidding. It's a joke.
I just see. Same with me. Apply that to me too. From what I'm about to say,
we just speak our mind so much. Sorry, not sorry.
I feel like the In-N-Out workers are like the Disneyland workers. They always gotta smile and they always gotta be happy to the employees, but then they get so overworked they're like fucking just done with life after the clock hits zero on their shift. It's just
we're about to clock out right now, but
yeah,
maybe we can talk about this in the next episode. This could bleed over, but maybe it just does go back to like I was saying about wages, them being underpaid, because I think In-N-Out's been ahead of the game for a while, haven't they? I think they've been the ones that have been paying their workers a little more.
Yeah. On average.
Yeah. There you go. And I think Chipotle as well. I think they were always one that was known for paying a little more. Maybe that's it.
And E. coli.
There you go. If you guys want to, if you guys really, like, you have that dream of working fast food, like it just turns you on and you want to be in a kitchen working fast food, don't go to McDonald's, go to In-N-Out or Chipotle, someone that will pay you better. Do that.
Or where else?
Don't work at Popeyes right now.
No.
Crazy Alan.
Hey man, they could probably giving temporary jobs right now for how much chicken sandwiches they're serving.
If you work Grubhub right now or Uber Eats and you live close to a Popeyes, you're getting good work right now. Some good hours. That's all I was going to say.
I was about to just add to your discussion. They should also work at taco trucks. Chill as fuck job. Get to serve some hungry people. And you just get some not free tacos, but like what, $2 tacos? How much is it? Like $1 for like 3 tacos? Forgot. I don't really eat tacos that much. But yeah. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, Hector?
The only thing I was going to say is that this conversation is making me hungry. So I am ready to cap out right now so I can go eat. And not a Popeyes sandwich, because that probably won't come in.
You should have your order, Uber Eats order for tomorrow. So when you wake up, you can just have a fresh sandwich.
Get it by Christmas.
Get it by Christmas. You should get somebody that for Christmas. Sure, someone will love it after the memes are dead.
Yeah, but again, another successful episode. Is there anything you wanted to say before we cap off?
I just gotta say this. I like how we switched around in so many degrees of topics, from like really important to casual to just comedy and entertainment. And yeah, that's me. Yeah. Then you guys gotta expect more out of us in the future.
That's what we do. That's what we do here at Savages Unscripted. And again, everybody, without further ado, Mondays, 7 in the morning is when we release episodes on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and every other podcast app that we have listed on our Instagram. So listen to us, share us with your mothers, your baby mamas, maybe not your kids if they're not old enough, but just share us with your friends. When you're in a little pot circle, share us, listen to us.
And keep updated with our Instagram at savages.unscripted. We typically like to engage with all of y'all, so just keep on that.
And again, thank you very much for listening this week.